let's get into it. 7 days of Bears craziness. Last time we were on the show, Matty Eberflus still employed by the team. And we were like, yo, if it's going to be a blowout, he's definitely going to lose his job. I thought while watching that game, and Ford Field, look, it's amazing every stadium I go to, and this is like my fourth time in Ford Field. It's just so much better than Soldier Field. Like everything is better. Like even down to the way the organization moves. They've got their PR people, and this is no shot at the Bears PR people. I love y'all. Y'all hold me down. But the PR communications people will walk up to you and ask you is there anything you need help with. Like it's like they're your fucking waiter or some shit. I thought that was very impressive. But and the popcorn quality has gone down. I will say that. Used to be one of my favorite stadium popcorns. It's gone down in almost 2 years I've been there. Very, very low quality now. But I thought a close game like they had, and there was no shot of Eberflus being fired. But the way it went down, and I remember when it happened, when they didn't call a timeout, it happened so fast that I knew they had a timeout, but part of me was like, there's no way he wouldn't have not used the timeout if he had it. So after the play was over, everybody in the press box is like, yo, they had another timeout, right? And it's like everybody instantly remembered that Matt Eberflus had another timeout, and outrage. Outrage hit it. People were leaving the game. Fans were just like, what were they thinking? Like, I've never seen a fan base not really even happy about they won, but that the fact that the Bears were so stupid to let that happen. And to me, I was like, oh, that's the last straw. And then when I was heading to the media room, and we waited for a long time, and we headed into the media room, I just look at Twitter, and it's going crazy. And you got your usual, Bears Twitter going crazy after every Bears loss. We're the ones calling Eberflus an idiot. But this is local. This is national heads now. You got Stephen A. Smith tweeting about it. I saw Kendrick Perkins tweet, Eberfuck. You know what I'm saying? I saw like all these different outlets tweeting. I'm like, oh, there's one thing that the McCasseys claim they don't like, that's being embarrassed. And I truly believe that if that game happened 12 noon on a regular Sunday, nothing happens. I think that being the first game and a showcase of Thanksgiving games when everybody's getting around their family, I think that had a lot to do with the conversation. So I go in the locker room, and I wasn't in there long. Wasn't in there long because we didn't ask questions this time, because the vibe was just different from when I was in there for a quick moment. Now, we found out later on what happened before they let the media in, because it was forever before they let the media in. And then after I quickly went in there, we went to wait for Eberflus. We waited for like 30 minutes for Eberflus, another 30 for Caleb. And the vibe I felt was there's no way he keeps the job. And usually he's confident about it. All that confidence is going out the window. So which is why I was shocked the next morning when, I'm looking like, yo, we ain't got the email. I kept telling y'all in the group chat, we ain't got the email. They usually send a Zoom link stupid early in the morning. We getting ready to head back to Chicago. I still ain't got no link. And so we on the road now, and then I get an email from the Bears super last minute with the link, but it didn't say Matt Eberflus press conference like it usually does. It didn't tell us who was talking. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's, Ryan Poles or some shit like that. And then we get on there, it's Matt Eberflus. And then I started being upset, like, oh, man, even this can't get him fired? And, I think that's when everybody in Bears Twitter started, going through the motions and things like that. But we got the announcement right when we were on the road. And the crazy thing about it, and I was telling Nikhil this before we did the show, it was a fucking snowstorm in Michigan, like to the fact where a truck tipped over. Like, a truck usually takes 3.5 hours, 4 hours maybe to get to Chicago from Detroit. It took us 5. So while this is going on, news hitting and everything like that, and that's just one of many things that kind of went crazy that week. I want to just get y'all initial reaction. I know we like a week late on this shit, but to the events leading up to Eberflus firing, Mike, y'all go to you first.
Yeah, that, like I said, I was watching the game at a bar. And the bar was really only open because the Bears played the early game. They were closing actually at 5:00 that day, and there was a pretty decent crowd. I'd probably say there was probably like 25 people in there. And everybody was screaming at the television, with every play. I think a lot of people forget that drive started within, the 1 yard line. And, to be able to get down there, get down into at least at the very minimum in position to tie the game and maybe win the game and have ample enough time, have the timeout. I was feeling, rather confident on it. But then in my head, I was just at the Vikings game. I seen the block kick. I seen the fuckery there. We obviously have just came off of the Packers game. We've seen the Commanders game. We've seen what happened last year in games. And I'm like, man, how are they going to fuck this up? I was completely shocked. I was completely shocked. And to me, it really just goes down to, Eberflus just not having a clue when it comes to in-game management, when it comes to having to make those coaching decisions. I found it very telling, when after the Commanders game, Spiegel and Holmes had asked Jalen Johnson, why didn't he think of calling a timeout? And he's like, we were never told that we actually could call a timeout. That directive was, kind of brought down that only Flus will be able to call a timeout. So I seen a lot of people, the instant reaction with a lot of people is, Caleb, why didn't, Caleb took too long. Why didn't Caleb call a timeout? Why didn't Flus call a timeout? And I was instantly on the, defending the rookie QB because you know what? You have a rookie QB and that is not for him to do. That is what you're there for as a head coach. You're there to protect him in that moment. So, it was upsetting. I was also, as a fan, I still don't get the players off the hook. Offensively, it was a terrible first half. They didn't do shit offensively in the first half. I was like, yo, one more score and I might be able to just go home early and catch the rest at my mom's crib because it was low energy, but they persevered. They fought. I thought Tyreek Stevenson had a really big, game saving, hit where he popped that ball out of Jahmyr Gibbs because if they score 7 there, it's a rout. But even on that drive, you have a Keenan Allen, unsportsmanlike penalty that brings you back. You have a big game by DJ Moore that at the very least he's tackled I think he was out at the 9-yard line with, what was it? The almost 38, 40 seconds left, but then you have the hands to the face by Tevin Jenkins. Then you come back very next play and Caleb misses it was a terrible throw. It was a wide open DJ Moore for what would have possibly been.
Was the DJ Moore thing before or after that Cole Kmet bullshit?
That was that was after. Yeah, okay. That was after. Yeah, that was after. I'm talking about the crosser where DJ Moore, where Caleb just completely missed him and kind of dirted it.
Oh, yeah. That's a touchdown if he is on that. I know.
That and now that is the play before the sack, before the last play. So that was the third to the last offensive play of the game. So, me just being a fan, obviously, I think we all in this chat and everybody that's watching, we were resigned to the fate that Flus would be gone at the end of the year. I don't think we ever really had confidence that they would make that move. But still, I, talked about it on the last pod. I want to start seeing some of these good offensive moments by the offense and Caleb be converted into wins because they needed to learn how to win. So I was upset in the moment that they didn't get it. But then obviously that sack was ridiculous because I guess it was a draw play. Like even then I questioned Thomas Brown on that. Like, what are you doing there? And then, you have the last play where Caleb really tried to make something happen. And if kind of Rome played through the contact and kind of made an effort to make a play on the ball instead of trying to get the whistle, I mean, you probably have a walk-off touchdown. But, we say all that to say, once again, the Chicago Bears found themselves in a one-score game with the ball with the ability to tie it or win. And a Matt Eberflus-led team found a way to piss down their legs because of decisions he made. And, we knew that this was going to happen. We've seen what happened last year with the Broncos, Browns, and the Lions game last year. We've seen what has happened this year. And I just think, kudos to Jalen Johnson and kudos to those guys for standing up. I know there's a lot of pushback on social media and kind of like sports radio from some of, ex-players and some, some media outlets, kind of pointing their fingers at the players for kind of like speaking out to Flus. But listen, enough is enough. Like, these guys put their bodies on the line. They show up day in and day out. They know the talent they have on their team. Mercedes Lewis has been in the league for fucking almost for half of our fucking lifespan, and he said that this is the most talented team that he's been on. So they clearly know, the players know first when you got a team and when you don't, and they felt like they were continuously being put in bad situations by their head coach, and it was just the right time to make the move. So I was shocked that they did it, and I know we'll get into the Kevin Warren Ryan Poles dynamic later on, but I don't think that this move happens in season the way it did if Kevin Warren was not employed by the Bears.
Go ahead, Dante. What was your reactions? Everything happened with the even
I mean, I was excited. I was really excited because I mean, one thing we've been asking for is a break from the norm, a break from what we usually do. And one thing we've seen is that everybody's hanging on the they don't fire people in season. They don't do that. And so I picked them to get embarrassed on Thanksgiving, but I didn't expect them to be this type of embarrassing fashion because at the end of the day, you could have won that game. You had another timeout. You had a lot of moves that could have been made instead of saying, we were fine with what happened once again. And I think that's been his consistent attitude throughout the failures is that going back, I wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't do it different. And I think one thing you can't be when you make these type of mistakes is be arrogant about it. Like the least you could do is if the media is asking you a question, be honest about it and say, yeah, looking back, we probably could have did that different. There are probably certain situations where we could have played tighter defense. We talk about the play, and again, it all goes back to the Hail Mary because when he shrugged off the play before the Hail Mary, that was something that should have got him fired. When you sit there and say, well, this 14 yards didn't matter. What do you mean? They won by a Hail Mary, bro. Off a tip pass that got tipped into the end zone. It clearly matters. It's when you make these type of statements, it's like, nah, he shouldn't be there. So, like you said, Scott, I was half right, but I mean, I think I just felt like after this game, if you lose this game, you had to make a change, and you had the time with it being an extended week to let Thomas Brown take over. Really see what you got, because I mean, again, if you can catch lightning in a bottle, you really cooking with doing a lot better than what you anticipated, and what could have been a disastrous situation like it's always been, where after year one, here you are with your rookie quarterback, and now you got a new coach, a new coordinator, and so now you just have the time to really see this out. But for me, that game, you have a lot of people who want to blame Caleb, want to microanalyze every issue, every throw, and that's something that we did with Justin, and I said was a problem, and we've seen it with Caleb as well. And I think overall he's continued to play well, and he's played better each week. He's struggled in the first half, but he picked it up. And again, one thing that I've loved, and one thing that despite everything that's going on, Caleb has put them in positions to win, and that's something that we've always asked of our quarterbacks. His fourth quarter play has been really well. Unfortunately, we haven't won these games, and it's been the same reason we were losing games in seasons past, and it's coaching decisions. And this is something where it was one thing when we were tanking. It was one thing when we were trying to figure out what we had, and there were still a lot of holes on the roster. But this is a talented roster, and like you said, I'm glad Jalen Jones spoke up and said, we're losing these games, and we know it's not a talent issue. Like the fact that he said that was something that was telling to me that showed that this has been brewing for a while, where the players were simply not happy with the way they were being coached. I thought it was crazy at the beginning of the year when they were just saying Waldron's a really nice guy, sometimes too nice. Like when people are saying
that's
about
insane.
the coaches, yeah,
that's
like
insane.
saying like they don't like they're kind of scared to coach us. That's weird. That's not a team that's going to be successful in most cases. Like so. I'm glad it happened, and I think going forward now you really have an opportunity with the games we have left to see what this team can do with some new energy in the room.
Yeah, man, I think too. What was funny to me was when we heard what happened in the locker room afterwards. Shout out to our guy, friend of the program, Adam Johns. Shout out to Dana Rossini from The Athletic, who all reported that Jalen Johnson got niggas face. You know what I'm saying? And Jalen didn't dispute it on his weekly appearance on Holmes and Spiegel, didn't dispute it today when he was asked, and he basically had a sly look on his face, like sometimes people need to step up and say things. And it sounded like he wanted to. Remember that scene in The Best Man where what was Morris Chestnut's playing, and Lance, when Lance was playing cards with Q, And he was talking, yeah, my girl never do that. And then Q's like, yeah, nigga, you never knew who she around. And then got off the table and
yeah.
that nigga. That's how I viewed the Jalen Johnson, Matt Eberflus conversation going when he went in there like, we got each other and we've got ourselves. Like, that's how I imagine what the altercation was.
And that's how they described it. They said that he had to be held back and multiple people had to kind of, restrain him. And I think, when Diana Rossini and Adam Johnson say like Flus just kind of ate it and walked out, like you can, there's no coming back from that. But I found it interesting that that DeMarcus Walker, there's a piece with Jason Leisure this week in the Chicago Sun-Times, and he basically said that he kind of did the same thing the week prior after the Vikings game, but it was more towards he was upset with the way that Flus called the defense in overtime, and he felt like being the head coach, you being the defensive coordinator, you're not putting us in the right spots to win because of the defense you were calling. And I was there, like I said, first play after the Bears punt after the Caleb sack, and we punt to the Vikings. It was a sack, Montez Sweat, 2nd and 17. And to DeMarcus Walker's point was, why were we not continuously bringing pressure? Why did we go back into kind of a soft bend don't break defense and into our base defense and allow Sam Darnold to complete 3 passes of over 12 yards that drive? I think there were 2 20-yard passes that drive. So you could tell that it was building. And I think the downside for us, when we get back to the fan standpoint, is just why wasn't this move made earlier? And there were some reports that Matt Eberflus or that Ryan Poles actually wanted him gone in January. They told him no, and then he wanted him gone after the Patriots game. He kind of wanted to do a Waldron and Flus firing and then elevate Thomas Brown. And it just always will make me think, what would have happened if they would have made that move then? Because listen, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions are 3 of the 8 best teams in the league, definitely 3 of the best 10 in the leagues, and the Bears had them beat all 3 times.
Yeah, too, man. And I think that's the most frustrating part about it. Every time I see what Thomas Brown does good, or just how this team has responded, I think, what the fuck happened in these Shane Waldron meetings that said, you know what, that's my guy right there. That's the biggest question mark I got, man.
So cool. Triple double hat trick, I know the code too. Ice trade, go for trade, yeah, we cold too. Getting paper on these player haters, old news. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not